more and more about the FBI's role. We saw this latest release over the weekend of Twitter files showing how detailed the FBI seemed to be involved in persuading people at Twitter to treat certain stories and people in particular ways. We're now getting in the very last few minutes, latest information on the intelligence services. The FBI and the intelligence services say, oh, this is all completely normal. It's just, we were just routinely, publicly warning about this information. Is it normal, or is this something that really should concern us, the way in which law enforcement and intelligence was getting so involved in such an important content platform?
Thanks for having me on. This should terrify every single American, because this sounds much more like the FBI under J. Edgar Hoover, where they were listening to everybody, recording calls, and creating dossiers of people to kind of hold them accountable. What we're hearing from these file releases, what we're seeing, and it's not just Twitter, it's coming from Facebook as well, is that the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, has been putting their finger on the scale pretty darn heavily. You see over at Jonathan Turley's got an op-ed about how you are now seeing congressional Democrats try to force Facebook to keep Donald Trump off. The government is very much involved to a very terrifying level on what type of content is promoted, removed, and it's the very type of thing that not only goes directly against our freedom of speech, our First Amendment rights, but is the type of actions that undermines faith in democracies, and that's how democracies fall. Go ahead.
No, sorry. So they say, again, as I say, they say, look, it's our job as law enforcement to protect the country particularly from external threats. We saw some external intervention in the election, maybe in 2016 with Russia. We know that there was, foreign intelligence agencies were trying to intervene. It's just our job to ensure that our democratic process and the discourse, the public discourse we have, it's just our job to make sure that, it's not being manipulated by outsiders. And all we were doing was kind of warning these content companies like Twitter and Facebook, they need to be doing it. What's wrong with that?
Safety and security have always been the basis by which governments and soon-to-be authoritarian regimes use to steal and control freedom of speech. It's something that NetChoice has been fighting against for 20 years. I spent the last decade of my life fighting against this type of government incursion into free speech. Now, there is some good news. If what they're saying is all above board, well, as Representative Comer said in your newspaper, there is going to be hell to pay. There are going to be investigations once Republicans take the gavel in January, and they're going to haul the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, before Congress, hold them accountable. And if everything they were doing was above board, then it should be fine. But it probably isn't.
Carl, the thing also I think many of us find so surprising and disturbing is the way so many of the media, I mean, you've just outlined exactly why we should be concerned. Again, we don't know if it was improper. We don't know if it was intimidation by the law enforcement. It doesn't look very good from the stuff that we've seen, but it's certainly an important story. We need to know more about this. And yet so many in the media just seem to be saying, oh, it's nothing, we're not going to cover it, we're not interested. It's just, the idea that a company can reveal the extent to which US law enforcement and intelligence was involved in shaping its decisions, and the mainstream media just dismiss it and say, no, that's not an interesting story.
I mean, let's remember, the New York Times published the Pentagon Papers. So these institutions are very much in favor of holding government accountable, but which government? They were very big on holding President Trump accountable, but not so much President Biden. And instead of reporting on the story like your newspaper or Fox has been doing, they're instead, attacking the very journalists revealing this information. They're attacking Matt Taibbi. They're attacking Bari Weiss, not because of what they're revealing, but of who they are. I don't remember reporters attacking reporters. Reporters are supposed to report on the story. And there's got to be a good reason why they're ignoring it. And it's probably because politics has infiltrated the newsrooms, as we all know. And what I'm looking forward to is not only Congress holding them accountable, but we have legislation in Congress today that would put government pensions on the line if they put politics in front of serving the people.
And of course, they attacked the New York Post back 2 years ago when it published the original Hunter Biden story. They refused to stand up for, a very well-respected and well-known newspaper when it was publishing important information. Carl Szabo, thanks very much indeed for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, the last full trading week of 2022 has kicked off with a